Broken my heart so many times I stopped keeping track. Talk myself in.
And certainly don't expect, with the structure you're picking up there, we don't expect they'll start falling off until maybe year 10. So.
Okay. So you can get maybe a realistic 6 to 10 under Pinot?
Yep.
So the way to do it is this. You buy a case of the Pinot and you start to open them up in phases as you go along. I think that's the only way to do that, right? So you buy a case of the wine and then you open one in 2.5 years, you open another one in 5, and then you open a couple in 6 because the 5 was really good, and so you keep doing it that way. The other thing too, people ask about aging all the time. If you're ever curious, all you have to do is call the winery that produced the wine. If it's something that was purchased here at Cellars of Sonoma, most likely I've tasted through the older vintage, and I can really tell you where the wine is at and whether you should sit on it a little bit longer or maybe it's really starting to show well. We've had some wines in the last wine club shipment that Michael Gann made that I didn't show last year because they really weren't ready. They were ready not. And that's really, we have that advantage because we're tasting them all the time. So just use that as a resource, no doubt.
And another fun thing to do if you've got, say, a case of it tucked away, is to taste it alongside the newer vintages.
Ah, there you go.
Especially if you've got wines coming from a single producer, a single vineyard.
Right.
It's really fun to taste the newer wine alongside the older wine and see the difference that a little aging makes.
Well, now that you got 2 of them under your belt, maybe we can think about doing that after you bottle this next vintage. We'll grab a couple of your wines and do a little vertical tasting, right?
Yeah.
All right, we can do that. All right, so let's move on to some little bigger wines. All right, go ahead, fire off, Michael.
So it's from Dan again.
Dan?
Yeah, and he asked, how long will you use the barrels before you replace them?
All right, so the question is, how long will you use the barrels before you replace them? So that's a great question because the barrels are, tell them what kind of cost it is for a French oak barrel. I mean, people don't understand the cost.
Yeah.
And it's pretty significant.
It is, and especially as you mentioned for a small producer like us. I mean, this year the new French oak I just bought is in the 700 euro range, which is $900 basically.
Wow.
Per barrel. So we would love to use them forever and ever with that kind of upfront cost, but with our third barrel regimen, really we use the barrels for 3 years and that's it. We'll sometimes, when we, for instance, when we make the Zinfandel or our Syrah, then we can use some of those older, totally neutral barrels. But for the Pinot Noir, we stick on that third program. So after the 3rd year, we rotate those barrels out. And so I guess if you look at it that way, it's about $300 a year per barrel.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's it.
Wow. Well, it's not a cheap part of the process by any stretch.
Right.
And again, if you really want to make world-class wines, you can't skimp in that program. There's just no way around it. I mean, there's a lot of other ways to make wine, but it's going to be very obvious in the finish of the wine. So this is Zinfandel. Now tell us a little bit about where this came from, because that's a pretty famous family vineyard. So tell me, tell us a little bit about.
Well,
great job. Let him go.
Richard Mounts is a grower up in Dry Creek Valley and a longtime grower. And he and his son David, they've got their own wine label now too, but they've been growing some very sought-after grapes up there for years and years. And since we're kind of longtime family friends with them, we were able to steal a little away. Well, we asked very nicely, and they